Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2020-21 season. My name is Dan and today I've got for you what I hope will be the ultimate guide for Fulham in FPL. We're going to be covering a whole bunch of subjects. So we're going to be looking at the general things to note about Fulham, how they play sort of thing, things to look out for. We're going to be looking at their fixtures, we're going to have a look at their formation and who are their regular starters. And then finally, we're going to look at what players might be worth keeping an eye on for this Premier League season in our fantasy team. So yeah, so much to cover. Hopefully we can whiz through it as quickly as possible and just give you all of the info about Fulham, and you'll never have to question anything about the team Fulham ever again. So if you do enjoy this, hopefully I will do another two, one for Leeds United and one for West Brom Albion. All the promoted teams I'm going to be doing a little video like this for, if that's what you like. So if you like this, do let me know. Do hit the like button, and yeah, we'll do similar things again if that's what you guys are up for. So yeah, let's crack into it. So let's have a look at the Fulham fixtures. So look at this. It's a great first 9 fixtures. I know 9 seems a bit of a random amount of fixtures to be looking at, but after 9, the 10th game is against Leicester, that's where the fixtures turn a little bit. They've got Manchester City and Liverpool after that. The first 9 actually look really good. So Arsenal, Leeds, Aston Villa, Wolves, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, West Brom, West Ham and Everton. So particularly defensively, these look like really good fixtures for a defence. And maybe there's a few fixtures there who look quite nice for an attack as well. You know, Arsenal can concede a goal, Aston Villa can concede a goal, Crystal Palace, West Brom, West Ham, Everton. You know, there's some really nice fixtures in there. So that is why I'm quite interested in making a video and talking about Fulham, just because out of all the promoted teams, they have the best starting fixtures. They really do. And I've spoken about this a little bit before. So definitely, you've got to at least have a look at them. So that's what we're going to be doing today, isn't it? So Fulham, they had the league's joint top scorer last season, Mitrovic, on 26 goals. So out of all of the championship teams, Fulham were in very, very lucky position to have the top goal scorer. So that sort of indicates that goals aren't spread around very often, which I think is kind of true in Fulham's case. The goals aren't spread around very evenly. It seems to be all directed at Mitrovic, so definitely something to consider. Now, Fulham don't create a lot of good goal scoring chances, and they pass around a lot, but they don't actually create many good chances, so they do have to make good of much fewer chances than other teams might, which might be a little bit difficult in the Premier League when it's going to be against even more difficult defences. So them passing it around midfield, they won't be able to break up at the Premier League attack, so they might have to start playing a little bit more counter-attacking football, which in the Championship they were very poor counter-attacking football. So that's going to be kind of difficult for Fulham when they step up to the Premier League. And they score and concede more goals than usual when they're at home rather than away. So when they're at home, they're playing much more open, expansive football, where although they score more goals, they do also concede a few more goals than you'd expect as well. Whereas when they're away, they're much more compact, concede less goals, and are not so bad in that respect there. And then they concede far more shots than most other teams. So Fulham concede a ridiculous amount of shots and chances, which is great for in this Championship when the goalkeeper can save these probably less quality shots. But in the Premier League, again, this could be really, really difficult, because if you're conceding more shots and these shots are being taken by, you know, a Mo Salah or an Aubameyang, then these shots are going to be more difficult to save. So I don't know how that's going to translate. And then finally, in 2018-19, I do think it's worth noting, this was the last time they were in the Premier League, just a couple of years ago. They had an abysmal defensive record, which I know a lot of people will say, well, that was 2 years ago, this is now. But you'll see in a second, they have pretty much the exact same defensive lineup that they did in that season in 2018-19. It's the same players pretty much, other than one different centre-back, and they've switched the goalkeeper up as well. But yeah, it's very, very similar lineup. So, speaking of the lineups, let's have a look at it. So, Fulham do like to operate in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 formation. So towards the end, the very end, they were operating with a 4-2-3-1 formation. So let's kind of assume that that's what they're going to be going in with for this Premier League season. It's a little bit more defensive as well, so that might be why they want to go for it. So In goal, they have Marek Rodák, who's a 4.5 million goalkeeper, so nice cheap goalkeeper there. And then on the left back, I don't know why I'm going from left. Let's go from right to left. So Dennis O'Doy or Cyrus Christie, they were the players playing at right back. Dennis O'Doy isn't actually in FPL yet because he hasn't re-signed his contracts yet, I don't think. But he is expected to sign and he is expected to be a Fulham player. But there is a bit of a rotation risk there, and so I don't really like this so much. So I wouldn't really go for Dennis O'Doy or Cyrus Christie at 4.5, just because they do rotate a little bit. In defence, Michael Hector and Tim Ream, both 4.5 million defenders. And at left back, Joe Bryan, who the player you've probably heard the most about, at 5 million. So all Joe Bryan, Tim Ream and Dennis O'Doy all were playing last time Fulham were in the Premier League. So might be some familiar names there. So last season in the midfield two, the double pivot, if you like, they played Harrison Reed and Tom Cairney for the most of it. Harrison Reed isn't actually a Fulham player. He is a Southampton player, so I don't know if Fulham are going to re-sign Harrison Reed on loan, or they might sign him on a permanent deal. But if not, they have got Zambo Anguissa, who could play there as well, potentially, who's a really good player. But not really players we want to be looking at for FPL. Tom Cairney, we could potentially look at him as an FPL asset, 5.5 million. And then moving into that, the three behind the striker. So on the left, Ivan Cavallero, 5.5. In the middle, Bobby Decadorva Reed. You might recognise him. He was a pretty popular player last time around last time he was in the Premier League. He was playing for Cardiff in the 2018-19 season. So a few of you might have actually had Bobby Reed in your team. It's the same guy. He was a forward then. He's a forward again now at 5.5. A little bit unfortunate. If he was a midfielder or if he was a little bit cheaper, he might be worth having a look at. But no, I'm not so keen on them. And then Anthony Knockaert, you might recognise him as well. He used to play for Brighton. 5.5 million. Midfielder, and he's the primary right winger. And finally up front, the crown jewel of this Fulham team is Aleksandar Mitrović, the most expensive player at 6 million. In terms of these players, there are some players who are much more nailed on than others. I'm going to put on screen now who is sort of a nailed on player and who is sort of a risky player, and then who is as a real rotation risk. But yeah, primarily the players that you're looking at being, players that are nailed on, who are going to play every game, are Marek Rodák, Tim Ream, Michael Hector, probably Joe Bryan, Tom Cairney because he's the captain, and then Mitrovic, I guess, up front. But in terms of the three behind Aleksandar Mitrović, they do rotate a little bit, especially with this one guy, Josh Onomah. He has been playing a lot of football recently. Well, I say recently, at the end of last season. He really came into form and he was really doing well, but he did have some injury problems last season, and he's had a lot of injury problems through his short career, to be honest. But he is a player who is going to be challenging, particularly Bobby Reed for that position behind the strikers. So, yeah, not so keen on those attacking players other than Mitrovic, to be honest. But let's go through the players and see who are the ones to watch. And we'll go from the most obvious players to the least obvious players. So let's start off with Mitrovic, 6 million forward. He's the standout Fulham player, isn't he? I think a lot of us have already looked at him, and I think that's for good reason. 26 goals and 2 assists in 40 championship games last season. So, a good record of well over one goal contribution every 2 games, so really nice. In the previous season, when he played in the Premier League, he got 11 goals in 37 Premier League appearances. That was during 2018-19, so he does have a record of scoring goals in the Premier League. And I know 11 doesn't look anything amazing, but if you cast your mind back, Fulham had an absolutely abysmal season. So if Fulham are even slightly better than they were then, you would expect Mitrovic to perform better. And I think Mitrovic, he's still fairly young. I do think he can be a better player this time around as well. So let's see what happens there. And Mitrovic has got 34 goals in 55 appearances for Serbia as well. So what I'm trying to say here is he's a proven goal scorer in every competition he plays in. He can always score goals. He's a very good goal scorer, and that's what makes him so attractive for FPL. He's a really nice price as well at 6.0 million. I don't think there's anyone better than him. All of the forwards, if you look at every single forward at 6 million or below, I don't really like any of them more than I like Mitrovic, so he really is good quite there. But, there is one thing to be aware of, and that's his disciplinary record. Mitrovic will pick up a lot of yellow cards, so do be prepared for that. Don't get annoyed when you see, Mitrovic, he's got a yellow card. It kind of comes with the package when you got this guy. But people are saying that his disciplinary record is improving, so maybe there'll be a few less yellows than what we've seen before. But let's see. I kind of feel like the stars have aligned with Mitrovic this season, given his price point, given his fantastic goal scoring record last season. I think this is a real good player to look for, especially given the fixtures. Let's move on to Joe Bryan at 5 million defender. And a lot of people have been talking about Bryan as well, but you know, I'm going to try and calm everyone down about Bryan a little bit, because I do think he is slightly too expensive. I'm not sure I trust the Fulham defence. Bryan did play in the 2018-19 season, as I mentioned previously, and he did have a poor season. He didn't score any goals, not really many goal contributions at all, really, and he was just conceding sort of 4 goals a game, which was just losing him points. It really wasn't very good at all. But he is on the long free kicks, Bryan, so you might have seen that in the Championship Player Final. If any of you watched that, you would have seen that Joe Bryan scored 2 goals. But again, this is something to be very aware of. He did score 2 goals in that game, but in the entire rest of the season, he only scored 1 other goal. So that really was an anomaly. That's not something that's going to be happening every week. Don't expect Bryan to chip in with 2 goals every week. He very rarely scores. But he does, however, get assists. He was the joint top assist maker at Fulham last season with 7, which is pretty good. The thing is, if Joe Bryan was 4.5 million, I think I'd probably go for him, to be fair. But I just feel like at 5 million, you can get a lot more for your money. I've got a list here of players that I prefer to Joe Bryan at the exact same cost. So Lewis Dunk, Antonio Rudiger, Hector Bellerin, Michael Keane, Luke Shaw, John Egan, Eric Dyer, and Romain Saiss. All of those guys are 5 million, and you think on paper all of those guys would get more points throughout the entire season than someone like Joe Bryan, just because they're playing far better defences. A lot of them are capable of a goal contribution as well anyway. So I don't know, I just feel like for the same money you can get a lot more than Joe Bryan, and for that reason I don't think I can personally pick Joe Bryan right now. But you know, I don't think it's a horrible pick, but I don't think it's a good pick. Really, if I'm completely honest. So next up is Rodák, the 4.5 million goalkeeper, and he's going to be a save point magnet, or at least if he can still save the Premier League quality shots, he's going to be a save point magnet. He's probably going to concede a fair few goals, let's be honest. And his fixtures, although they do look really good at the start, I just can't really recommend. I can't recommend Rodák, because I don't want to waste a transfer on a goalkeeper, and I don't want to have Rodák beyond the first 9 games, because after that it doesn't look good, and I don't want to waste a transfer. So I personally rather go for a keeper who I'm happy to stick with really long term. Really, like I'm trying to think like 20 games, so play every single team once. Who as a goalkeeper am I happy with? And for 4.5 million, I think McCarthy at Southampton and Ryan at Brighton just offer more, and they also have pretty good fixtures as well. It's not like they've got bad fixtures, so I don't hate this pick, but I think, again, there are far better options at 4.5 million in McCarthy and Ryan. So if you do want a cheap goalkeeper, just go for one of them. Don't really bother with Rodák. Unless you're really feeling out there and you really just want to have fun with the game, then fair enough. But no, I don't think I could go for Rodák personally. No chance, really. Next up, Cairney at 5.5 million midfielder. Set-piece specialist, the second top goal scorer for Fulham last season with 8 goals in 39 games, which isn't too bad. He only got 3 assists last season, though, which is a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to see a few more assists from a midfielder in order to bring him into my team. But he is supposedly guilty of being a bit of a sideways passer, so he doesn't proceed. I don't know. He doesn't progress the ball. That's the word. He doesn't progress the ball forward very often. So, yeah, that is a little bit disappointing. And if he's not creating very many big chances, then I'm not really that interested, if I'm honest. He is a Premier League quality player. He is the club captain. He is nailed on. He probably should play near enough every game. So there are some benefits, but 5.5 million, again, there are better options, and that's sort of what you've got to do. You've got to say to yourself, at 5.5 million as a midfielder, who do I think is going to score more across the season? Do I think it's going to be Cairney, or do I think it's going to be Aleksandar Mitrović? And yeah, I think all of us would probably agree Aleksandar Mitrović is the better pick. But I don't know, you could go for Cairney as a bit of a punt, but yeah, I'm not personally too sure. So next up, I've gone for Hector, the 4.5 million defender. Now, I think he's actually got the capability of being a fairly good, cheap rotation defender. I'm not fully convinced that Fulham will keep clean sheets yet. I need that proven to me first of all. But at 4.5 million, you can't really go wrong. You can just rotate him out with other cheap defenders and sort of play Hector in the games where you think are going to be really easy. So say they're playing against, you know, West Brom. They've got a game against West Brom. You might think, oh, actually Hector might do a job here. Let's bring him in for that one, and then just bench him for the harder games or the intermediate games, I guess. But don't expect goals from Hector. He did score 0 last season, but his record does say he usually picks up between 1 and 2 goals per season throughout. And at 6'4" tall, he's a real target man for set pieces. He did pick up 2 assists last season in 20 games because he signed for Fulham in January, so he only played 20 games for him, but he was nailed on throughout those 20 games. Absolutely. He played every single game, 90 minutes a game sort of thing. But yeah, in those 20 games since he signed, he picked up 2 assists, which is kind of positive, I guess. There you go. Then again, you know, I don't mind Hector as a pick, but I'm going to have a good look at the other options. What's the best players I can fit in? But you know, if it lines up well with rotations, and Hector is a really good rotation player, and he can fill in where I'm struggling to find another defender who can play in one particular week, then Hector might be able to come in there. That might be quite nice. And then finally, we're going to go for a little bit of an out there differential pick, and that's Josh Onomah, 5 million midfielder. And what a price! I can't really believe that that's his price. In fact, I might actually just check he's on that price on my phone right now. Correction on screen if I got it wrong, I suppose. But 5 million midfielder, that's a really cheap player and a big differential. And you know, Josh Onomah, although he had a lot of injury problems, when he did play right at the end, he was a real key player. In that final stretch for Fulham in their promotion charge last season, and in the season before he was actually one of the key players for Aston Villa's promotion charge. So he's ready for the Premier League. He's been promoted technically twice now, so he's ready to go. And he's in his final 10 games of last season, including the playoffs, he scored 3 goals and 2 assists. So that's 1 goal contribution every other game, and he also started 8 consecutive games during that period as well. So his final 8 games, he started every single one of them. So he didn't even start the first 2 of those 10 games. So technically, it's 3 goals and 2 assists in 8 starts, which is pretty good reading, really, isn't it? So yeah, there you have it. There you go. Those are the players, the information, everything I have collated about Fulham. But I really think there is some interesting things going on here. Mitrovic is probably by far the standout player who we do all want to be looking at, really, especially if you're looking for a player in the region of 6 million up front. Mitrovic is a real standout player throughout the whole league. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I hope you did find this video really useful. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider subscribing, sticking around for more. Let me know if you want a Leeds version of this video and a West Brom version of this video, and I'll try and pump those videos out for you as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are in the watch to the last minute of the video gang, if that's a real gang, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. I hit it today and I was just blown away. Absolutely amazing. I can't believe how quickly I've just somehow got 10,000 subscribers. It's amazing. So thank you so much for all of you guys who have joined me on this FPL journey. And yeah, I hope I can keep making videos that you guys enjoy and love. So yeah, that's all the soppy stuff out of the way. I just did want to say that very quickly for those of you who do watch the videos all the way to the end. I do really appreciate you. So thank you so much. And aside from that, let's be done with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye bye.